Hi, my name's Londe Yusuf.
And my name is Reggie Williams.
And we're the co-founders of Black Film Space. Black Film Space is a grassroots organization dedicated to enhancing the skill sets of Black filmmakers and building a community of creatives. We host events such as screenwriting workshops, panels, mixers, and other events that are designed to support Black content creators.
In the next episode of the Black Film Space podcast, we interview Tosin Coker, a director and filmmaker. Tosin is the founder and CEO of Skylar Productions, through which he has directed and produced films such as Lara the Beat and the upcoming film Finding Neptune. We talk with Tosin about Nollywood, navigating film markets and distribution, starting a production company, and much more. And now, on to our interview. All right, Tosin, thank you so much for joining us on the Black Film Space podcast. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. This is going to be a great interview. We haven't, and I haven't spoke to anybody from the Nollywood scene, so this should be really informative for me. I'm really eager to learn more about what's going on over there. Where are you based?
I'm based in Los Angeles and then sometimes in Texas. So I shuttle between both places.
Okay. But you've spent time in Nigeria making films?
I spent the past 4 years making films on TV in Nigeria. Most of my life I've been here. I was born in San Francisco. I grew up in Nigeria. I spent about 13 years in Nigeria before moving back to the States. And I've been here for about 24 years since. So I went to film school here. I went to animation school here. I did a few short films, did some music video, did some editing, and then eventually got an opportunity to go to Africa, South Africa in 2015. And just out there, going to Africa, just experiencing cinema over there, I was really interested in the African film space. So from there, I got an opportunity to come to Nigeria and direct a television series. Mm-hmm. And off of that television series, I got an offer to make my first theatrical feature, which is actually now on Netflix. And I think the TV series also on Netflix.
Nice. That's amazing. That's so dope. So what are some of the differences that you've noticed between Nollywood and Hollywood?
Well, Hollywood is developed already. It's been on for over 100 years now. So Hollywood in general, you've seen the development of cinema over, decades and, pretty much a century. You see development of cinematic language. You see the journey to actually find directors and cinematic voices through that. But with Nollywood is still developing. I quantify Nollywood with at this moment, this present time, Nollywood is in Hollywood circa 1970s, where you're having that whole new Hollywood movement. There's a lot of development necessary in terms of the organization, and I think the appreciation of the art. So for me, looking at Nollywood and coming in there, it was just a whole lot of education in terms of the workflow that was necessary over there. But one thing that I do know that they have in Nollywood is that the ability to tap into resources and to tap into to make low budget cinematic projects look more larger than life based on just, the limitations they had. People had to be a lot more resourceful. People had to think outside the box. You have a lot shorter time to make cinematic projects. So, it's just more or less like hustle. You're working 24 hours a day. Sometimes I shoot 48 hours, no sleep, because of just the fact that it's just a hustle. I'm shooting 20 pages a day sometimes out there. So it's that hustle mentality. They don't have a lot of resources, but everybody's really digging deep and they're trying to just be the best they can be, at cinema to get us, forward over there. So yeah, that's, I think, the major difference.
Yo, that's crazy. You work 48 hours straight. What are you doing to stay up for that amount of time?
Oh, loads of coffee. I mean, for this film in particular, I mean, I think, yeah, we'll shoot 6 days, 20-hour days. Sometimes, I mean, and being the director and producer on this, I was probably getting 3 hours of sleep every day. And I did this for about 30 days. So literally after shooting, I had to take 2 weeks off just to detox and get away from everything because it's just overwhelming. You know, it's pretty much, you can quantify it to going to war. You come in there and you're just in it. You know, you're just shooting and shooting, because also time is of essence. Shooting in Africa, it's like, once you have the budget, you know, it's not, as I said, it's not as organized. So it's like, in a sense, like, what we have to just, once we have the money, we just got to just start moving with it. Like, so for us, we got the money. I didn't have any pre-production days because just the turnaround was so short. I just had to like get in there into the trenches and rely on my past preparation and instincts, you know, and, you know, just working with the actors in the moment and trying to get, you know, the honesty in those moments over there. So yeah, it's really intense. It's shooting out there.
That's crazy. That's crazy. In regards to your film, Lara the Beat, was it done through a production company or is it through your production company?
Lara the Beat, it was done with a partnership with another production company. It's actually I think the brainchild of my producing partner in Nigeria. She wanted to make a coming of age story along the lines of a Disney type of film. Of two sisters who lose everything and they have to pretty much embrace their talents when they don't have the security of financial independence there. So it's almost like a riches to rags story from Sense and Sensibility type of film. So she always wanted to do it. It was synonymous with her story, with her sister. They had it and they lost it. So she tapped me. We met, we spoke about it, and you know, I decided to take it on. And with that, we chose to co-develop it while I came back. I was shooting TV back then, and when she pitched it to me, so I came back to the States, met with my team, and we went into the script because they already had a script. And I tried to develop it in such a way that it would appeal to me, because for me to make a film, it has to be personal to some degree. I just can't make a film that's not personal, because it's not going to be honest. So I worked with my team to try and get a project as honest as possible to what my vision could be. And that's how it came about. So it was like, I think for them, it was just the co-production with an American company. For me, just having the perfect co-production with a Nigerian company for us to be able to bridge that gap between both sides of the pond, which is our ultimate vision for this type of film.
And you said there was minimal pre-production. Can you elaborate more on that process?
Yeah. So honestly, there was, I would say we didn't really have pre-production time. I didn't have the luxury of that, because straight out of, like, as we're scripting, I flew back. I flew to the LA in May, and I had to fly back in August to start pre-production on the film. But the moment I landed in Nigeria, the executive producer and their team were like, they wanted to make changes to the script. They were considering a complete overhaul of the script.
Oh, wow.
So at that point, they already had a different script, and then they now had us try to create a script that could work with both, because they wanted to, you know, the target audience, they wanted to expand it to, you know, to touch on, they wanted it to touch, have a love story in it. We didn't have a love story element initially. So that took about 2 months of just crafting. So between August and I think October was just us trying to figure out what the final script was. And then literally, I think by the beginning of October, once we said, okay, we have a script, you know, the day after they said, oh, well, we have the money. We have to shoot because investors want to see something happening. So I think like a day after finishing the script, I jumped to set. And I think I only had maybe like a day or so to just check out locations, or maybe I look at locations the day before, and I have to craft out my shots, my lighting, like either on the day of or like the day before. So I was literally relying on instinct a lot of times, me and my team. And I was fortunate to have such a great team, set of people, you know, people that some of them I went to film school with. So we're able to take time out and say, okay, what's important in the scene? What's happening in the scene? How do we enter the scene? what do we focus the camera? What's the blocking? So we're doing all that in real time. And it was an interesting exercise because it takes you back to film school where you're doing, you know, how you have like, you have class exercises, create a scene in 2 hours, or do editing camera, because, you know, so all the training I had over the years came to play off of making this film, you know. So you see what you see on screen, it was literally, we're just creating on instinct, all of us.
That's dope. That's so, yeah, I was just thinking that sounds like a really good exercise. Yeah. Except it's exercise that led you to Netflix, which is dope.
Yeah, it was exciting.
So when you were, as far as the locations, like, what about, like, how many days were you shooting for?
Well, on paper, we had 31 days, but based on restrictions, because as I said, we're still developing industry, we had so many restrictions, like, you know, we had thugs would shut down the set, or the power would go out, or there'll be traffic, or we can't get lights, or, you know, we're creating on the fly. We came down, I'll say I probably would quantify it as 23 days while shooting in the States, and, you know, and where everything was all functional perfectly. It'd be 23 days, but I think that's literally what we had to make this film. It's I think we had like 40 something principal cast members, and, you know, about 200 crew all had to just come together to make it happen in 22 days.
Wait, I'm sorry, you said 23 days in the States?
No, I said if we were shooting in the States, like based on logistical issues, like sometimes I had to shut down set for like, you know, 5 hours or 8 hours. So those days were gone. So if on paper it's 31 days, but in reality, it came down to about 23 days of shooting is what we had.
Got you. And how were y'all like finding new locations as you were like finding them as you were shooting?
Yeah, well, I had a producer who, she was very resourceful in that effect. Like, she was just finding them on the go. Like, literally, I'm on one set and I'm like, we need to shoot this other scene, but we don't have a location. She's making calls. I'm like, oh, we have this location right now. Could you just drive over there and shoot it? So that's what we're doing. Like, just moving from set to set based on quick phone calls or favors from friends in that moment. So it's very guerrilla style filmmaking. Like, I remember she got a whole building never been used before to the scene where there's a whole, like, I think a skyscraper never been used before, and she got that, like, I think the 24 hours prior to shooting, she got a whole building for us, you know. Yeah, so it was pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like an adventure if there ever was one.
Oh yeah, it was. It was. I mean, we all talk about it till tomorrow, like from pre-production all the way to post. So it's an adventure on this film.
So do you want to make more films in Nollywood?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on the right product. I've been given offers so far, and I have a few things in development also on this end that we are working on for Africa and for Nollywood in particular. So yeah, I'm excited to do more. I think it's just a great opportunity there to grow, also for just, you know, African American and African and unrepresented people. It's a great space to go out and create something fresh. You know, bridging that gap, I believe, is very important to bridge between the African American community and the African European community in Africa, the indigenous Africa. And there's just a lot of stories that need to be told over there. So I think that's a great opportunity for filmmakers, you know, Black filmmakers, to go out there and just make a difference.
What are some, if let's say there's somebody listening to this and they're thinking, you know, either they are Nigerian or maybe they're not Nigerian, and they're like, you know what, I want to, like, I'm tired of America. I want to move to Nigeria and make some movies. What are some of the benefits as opposed to working in Hollywood or in America? Going
to Africa, you know, there's just, you get a lot more access. Access is very important. You have access to, you know, equipment at a fraction of the cost. You have access to talent, whether it's ready to help you tell your story. There you have also resources, financial resources go along the way over there. You know, so you're able to tell a full-length story with, you know, for a fraction of the cost on it that you're doing in the States, and just the opportunity to tap into something fresh, something that has layers, a traditional aspect of it, and bringing culture and bringing a slice of life that the world's never seen. I think that that's something that you can't really quantify, the fact that you could tell a story that's just different. And I think that's because it's 2020. You see, everybody has seen a whole lot of the same thing. Now you can go out there and tell a story that people have never seen before. You look at what happened with Crazy Rich Asians, is a completely different world, and people embrace that because they've never seen it before. So going to Africa just gives you the opportunity to tell stories that, you know, will really, really move the world, you know, in such a way that, wow, you know, we've never seen that before. I subscribe to that. And that's what I've at least have noticed and I've picked up based on this film we just did, is just the response, like, wow, you know, we never knew Africa was like that. We never knew that you could, you know, people went through the same situations or same issues and conflicts we did on this end. So opportunities are just endless out there at this point because it's developing still.
Got you. And what is Nollywood like centralized? Like when people think of Hollywood, it's literally Los Angeles, and it is expanding. You know, Hollywood technically could be New York, and technically could be. I mean, literally Hollywood's in Los Angeles, but when people think of Hollywood as entertainment, they think it could be Atlanta with Tyler Perry Studios. It could be New York City. Is Nollywood like in Lagos specifically? Like, is there like a centralized area where there's tons of creatives and filmmakers and production companies?
Well, Nollywood itself is an idiom coined from Nigeria and Hollywood, so it's just a merger of that. So it's pretty much the country itself is Nollywood, and we dubbed that. I think somebody came and did an article in Nigeria. I think somebody from the West, and they coined it Nollywood, and it stuck. So when you say Nollywood film is a Nigerian cinematic project, is what it is. Something that stars principally Nigerian talent, Nigerian crew, Nigerian, you know, that's what Nollywood is. It's mostly central. The cinematic hub in Nigeria is going to be mostly Lagos, or also the East, the Igbo parts of the world, of the country. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of cinematic projects out there. And also the capital, Abuja, is also pretty much booming right now. So is Nigeria in general. And then there are other countries. Ghana has Gollywood, and, you know, I think Kenya has their own version of the industry. But Nollywood being Nigeria is just, I think, the biggest in Africa based on the turnout and just, you know, how we've embraced cinema as a whole, you know, as an export.
Yeah. Could you elaborate more on what you think could be developed in Nollywood? Is there, like, what are the unions like out there? What are some of the requirements? Just in general when you know, producing and making a movie.
I do know that they have unions, producers unions, and they have directors unions, and there's an Actors Guild of Nigeria union. But in terms of like protection for the talent, or the benefits they offer, I feel that there's still a whole lot more, especially protecting their members' financials of their financial future or feasibility of, you know, like their financial. So I'm looking for the right word for it. That pretty much just benefiting them financially. Like, you know, you have medical they don't have, you know, set up for people that are in those guilds. You have minimum dues, like, you know, minimum rates that they're supposed to get. We have that over here with the DGA, but you don't have that over there. I feel that there's a whole lot more to be done as far as taking care of the members. And I'm not necessarily a member of any of the guilds, but based on my experiences with them, I feel that they just need to do a lot more to protect their members. And also they need to do a whole lot more to push the industry forward, at least fight for financing for the industry, fight for, education, in turn for people that are in the industry, actors and behind the scenes people. And I don't see a lot of that being done at this point. A lot of the people that are coming are the film school generation, people that went to school in the West, and they're coming back to give back, and they're setting up, different seminars and, workshops to train people. And I feel that that's something that the guild should actually subscribe to.
Got you. So here in the States, there's, like you said, like 100 years ago or so, there were these production companies that kind of solidified themselves, and they're still around, such as Warner Brothers. Trying to think of another company. I can't think of any other ones up the top.
Universal, MGM.
Exactly. Those companies. Who are some of the power production companies or studios in Nollywood?
There are a few I can mention. I'm actually fortunate to work with two. There's Ebony Life Television and Ebony Life Studios. I think they're the behemoth of the industry. They turn out the most projects. They actually have the box office numbers, the best box office numbers. This started out I think over 10 years ago was when they started Ebony Life Television and Studios, and they've just been whipping out a lot of films. So that's one of them. And then there's Biola Labi Studios, who is my partner in making Lara the Beat. She actually used to run the equivalent of like Comcast. In Africa, it's called DSTV, multi-choice. So she was running cable on the continent, and then she decided to go private and start a production company. So she actually has the resources and also the contacts to build, upwards and also outwards towards the West with her content. There are other production companies that are out there that's called Golden Effects Studios. And this is spearheaded by a filmmaker, director, Kunle Afolayan. He's also a very talented filmmaker who's actually making waves also outside of the continent. He's very well known on the continent. He's also branching out into the West. So there are a few of them that are going. And I just got a call from another one, Silverbird Cinema. They have a distribution network where they have the theaters, and now they're going to straight up production, and they're really looking forward to actually integrating and bridging that gap between Africa and the West. So they're putting a lot of money into trying to get like African American talent, African American people to come over there to, to work on projects with, the indigenous Africans, back home.
Got you. Dope. So in here in the States, I feel like decades ago, it was probably not easier per se, but I would say now definitely like it's a cutthroat industry. There's a lot of people here that want to be in the entertainment industry. A lot of people move to LA and they don't make it for whatever reason, even if they're really talented. It's hard to break through. It's really challenging to break through. It's possible, but it's challenging. What is it like in Nollywood? Because it is developing, is it super cutthroat? Do you think it's really challenging to like call up one of these studios or send your resume to one of these production companies and get some eyes on either a project or your resume? Like, what is it like?
There's politics also in Nollywood, and it's a dog eat dog industry as much as it is over in the West. But at the same time, there is an openness to collaborate. People are excited to, work on something that's new, something that's fresh. And if you do have something that's exciting, something that people can really sink their teeth into, and something that they know is also sellable, on both the continent and outside the continent, there are people you can approach. It's not as big as Hollywood. You can meet people and talk to people, and based on your excitement and what you bring to the table, you could, within a few days or a week, you'd be sitting across from a deal maker, in the industry. And before you know, you're on set. And also because the budget points are not that high, it's a lot easier to actually get a smaller production company to make a picture with you, or even like, getting any of the majors over there to make a picture, because they're looking to move forward and move upwards. And just that excitement as the industry as a whole propels people to be open to collaborate, especially if you're coming from internationally over there to look for partnerships. I think that accessibility is just, it's just there,
Got you. Now, you mentioned making movies that are marketable to Nigerians and all over the diaspora. Your movie sold. So how would you define a Nollywood film that is marketable? Because I would imagine it would be different than a Hollywood film being marketable.
Yeah, I mean, a Nollywood film being marketable, I think it all boils down to content. I would say being able to tell a story that anybody can identify with. I think that's first thing. You have to be able to identify a story that people can actually tap into no matter where they are. Once you have that, something that transcends borders, look for those type of projects. Look for what elements of your cinema or of your cinematic piece that can actually transcend language barriers. So if you have a project, for instance, like we did music. Now, music transcends borders. You could be from China, you could be from South America, but because of the music itself, it's actually something to open up for conversation. And then just looking at a story, from riches to rags, is something that a lot of people can identify with. So we went specifically and deliberately in there to make a film that I know for a fact that people outside of Nigeria can still watch and appreciate. I think that being over there and looking at films that would appeal to people outside, telling global stories, I think that's what's most important, and something that's also compelling. Over here, in the States right now, what's really selling as far as box office numbers are the tentpole Hollywood movies. But the more intimate movies back there are the ones that are really, really going far. And I think that that's, what's different. It's just, I always say that, the audience, this is why I say the audience don't necessarily know what they want until you show them.
Yeah,
is one of the things I go with. So I don't try to construct something technically. I try to look for the emotion of it. And as I said, if it's personal to me, then I put my everything all in to just tell that story that I know appeals, that speaks to me. And I hope that I can, once I make it, people out there would appreciate. But with Lara the Beat, we had music, so that actually also was a conversation opener in there too. And then we use the cinematic language to also drive the story forward and to appeal, to a global audience just based on the way we shot it and aesthetically too.
Got you. So what do you think is the potential landscape for Nollywood throughout the 2020s? Like how much potential do you think Nollywood has?
Well, I'll say thanks to streaming, like media, we have better access now. Netflix has really embraced the continent and Nollywood as a whole. So our content for distribution, the distribution potential of Nollywood right now is just boundless, because of just this Netflix opportunity that they brought to Africa, beginning of the year. So we have Netflix in Nigeria right now, which is Netflix Nigeria, and those guys are actually they're funding a lot of projects to put on the Netflix to put on the global scale, the global platform. Sorry. So I think that what the landscape is looking like is just more or less a complete seamless integration into just cinema as a whole. So not just Nollywood, just going to be cinema, or African independent cinema is where we're going with it. And you can see that if you go into Nollywood, if you go into Netflix right now and just click, international movies or Nollywood movies, you're going to see like just a barrage of just different, movies from the continent or from Nigeria as a whole. And I know that Right now, Amazon is considering the same thing, and I believe HBO Max is also considering the same thing. So Africa is looking like the next big hub, and I really want to say I'm grateful for it. Black Panther opened up the door for a lot of that.
Oh wow!
Ryan Coogler really, really like just bust the door open, and people saw Africa as wow, there's viability over there, and I know that a lot of the top agencies in the country and the world actually are now looking at Africa as the next hub.
That's dope. That's dope. What do you feel like there's a threat that non-Africans will like come in and kind of capitalize on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the moment we saw the numbers on Black Panther, we already knew, like a bunch of us came together like, wow, well, now people are going to be coming to Africa and they're going to want to tell our story. So it's important that Africans and, even African Americans are able to drive the narrative because they're two sides of the same coin, those that are indigenous and those that were I don't want to say the word is displaced, but those that were, that were taken, to the West, we're brothers, we're the same family. So I feel that as long as we're driving those stories, that'd be fine. But we don't want it to be a story. I would not want, and I don't know if this is okay to say this, I just don't want it to be another form of colonization, so to speak. Where it's like the West comes there and try to tell our story or try to whitewash our stories. I think we need to stay authentic and embrace the opportunity of telling stories, by ourselves and also with our brothers on the West.
Yeah, but not just telling stories, but like literally setting up shop, like setting up studios and production companies, and making that.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, a few of the producers I've been talking to here in Hollywood, some of the top ones, I'm not going to mention any names, are looking at Ghana right now. I have a project that a few of the top people are like, okay, we want to try and collaborate, but we're trying to get a foothold in Africa because we don't know the terrain yet. So collaborating with you would get us in there. So I'm happy about that we have, the African American producers looking at Africa to set up shop and set up like sound stages and studios. They're looking at the long game in Africa, and because it's fertile land, and there's a lot of opportunity. So I think it just makes common sense, and that's why Ghana encouraged the year of the return. Bringing investment from the West, back to Africa, and I think that extends also to cinema.
Yeah, dope. And what about the movie theater industry? What was it like before COVID? And I know COVID hasn't hit Nigeria nearly as bad as it has hit America, but here in America, it's a serious threat that movie theaters could like. I don't think it'll close down forever, but they could take a really big hit. So it's a huge threat. So what is it like over there? Over here, it's pretty much, the new thing. We're now embracing cinematic culture in Nigeria. I mean, I know South Africa has been doing it for a while. They have a lot of theaters. Nigeria now, I don't know if we have up to 100 screens nationally, under 100 theaters nationally. I know we have, a bunch of screens, but I think there's now a push for investment there. COVID didn't hit Nigeria as hard as it hit the States, because once it happened, there was a complete shutdown for 2 months, of everything. So it's like we try to control over there. And I think recently, I don't know if it's like the past 2-3 weeks, they opened theaters again. So I understand the threat as it's affecting the U.S. because the U.S. the industry is so developed right now that we have a lot of access to consuming cinematic properties at home. We have a lot of streaming platforms that are accessible to us, whereas in Nigeria, we have HBO. I mean, we have Netflix.
And then other than that, we have DSTV, and I think they have Showmax on demand. So it's always going to be cinema, and I know that the cinema culture is not going away anywhere. There's a lot of investment going in there. We're looking towards having 1,000 theaters, and honestly, the more theaters we have, the more successful a picture could be. You know what I mean? So you have 1,000 theaters, and we'll now be talking about millions of dollars box office returns over a weekend.
Yeah.
So I see that now, because Nigeria is now seeing the financial viability of the and the financial success or financial results of cinema, and seeing like, wow, you can make a whole lot of money. You know, the go-to for Africans being a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, engineer, but now being a filmmaker is now something that you can be financially successful off of that. You can live well off of making films. So they're now pumping a whole lot of money, and the government is also looking to help too, to pump money into film funds and all that in Africa.
Dope. What about the film festival circuit? What is that like over there? What are some of the film festivals that are most popular or prestigious?
Okay. On the continent as a whole, I mean, there's some really good ones. When I went to Africa the first time, I was invited by the Durban Film Market, which is tied into the Durban Film Festival, which is a partnership with the Berlin Film Festival. So that's a very big one, you know, to get in there, because once you get in there, it's like you now have the eyes of Berlin Film Festival, which is one of the top tier film festivals in the world, on you. You have things like the Zanzibar Film Festival. You have, I think there's one in Morocco, which is also up there. I think the Carthage Film Festival is also there, and then you have some in Nigeria. You know, we're looking at, I think there was one called the Real Time Film Festival, and I think it's the Lagos Film Festival. So they're now embracing this film festival culture because they celebrate cinema in Nigeria, they celebrate storytelling in Africa, and it's more or less like now, because as I mentioned, it's still growing. It's not where Hollywood is at. But I think the excitement of cinema, the way it was when Hollywood first started in the States, is like what we're experiencing right now is this like celebration of Africanism, and, you know, through cinema and through fashion and all that stuff. So they're bringing up like festivals that celebrates everything, fashion and music and cinema. And I think that we've seen a whole lot more of that, you know, as eyes start turning towards the continent.
Dope. It sounds really exciting. Actually, I have another question.
Sure.
About Nigeria, because I do want to talk about your movie.
Okay.
So let's say somebody is African American, and they want to go out to Nollywood. What do you think they should know or be prepared for? Because yes, we are family, but there are cultural differences. There's differences between Hollywood and Nollywood. Like, what should they prepare for and know before, you know, deciding they want to go there to make a movie or go there to live there for the, you know, rest of their lives?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll say that also because it's developing, things are not going to operate as they would have, or as they would in the West. Things might be a little bit slower, you know, in terms of, you know, come to fruition as far as like functionality and some aspects. The industry doesn't work as it would in the States. I remember my producer, when she first got there, she was frustrated because, you know, there are certain things that were supposed to be put in place, you know, certain forms that should be filled, certain paperwork needs to be done. And they're like, well, we don't do that over here. I remember my assistant camera person was like, oh, you have to wear reflective jackets to shoot outdoors on the road, and they're like, we don't do that over here. So the certain level of patience and understanding and appreciation for the way they do things. Don't come with a preconceived notion and try and like lord it over them or just force it onto them. It's about understanding, open up dialogue, and also being patient and being able to listen, you know, in order to grow as a person. I think that's very important. If one can master that, and especially with the patience factor, I think that it's going to be easy to be able to make projects out there coming from the West.
Got you. So your film, Lara the Beat, is about very much about music. How did your experience directing music videos help and influence that film?
Well, in making this picture, my experience making music videos pretty much came into effect with just mostly a lot of the technical aspects as far as the camera goes and the lighting and the color work. I think that just doing, I try to embrace more of a surrealist vibe for the film. It's a little natural, but I just being in music and you're exaggerating certain things and you putting the MTV generation effects, for the edit and the pacing and the timing, all those things, they really help for me to be able to pace out scenes and also to be able to light the scenes technically. Those are all from music video experiences that I applied towards this project, just to just give it that extra, visual appeal, I guess, for it to be palatable, across variety of people in different continents.
And how did you go about incorporating like musical scenes without disrupting the flow of the story?
It came seamlessly. The idea I actually had for the film, if I didn't have production, was more or less like I wanted it to be. I always wanted it to be seamless as far as like transitioning from dialogue into music, but I wanted the situation where the camera is there and the scenes are changing. So I had to have movable backgrounds and all that, but I couldn't do all that like La La Land. But with this particular one, it was just very seamless. We just used lighting to tell that. We went from the dramatic aspect into music, and we just used lighting to tell that. There's a particular scene where you see it's in a dark room and she's singing and had the pink light over her. It's almost like a dreamlike state, and that just went from a dramatic scene to like a fade out, and then we're back in here and it's like almost dreamlike, and then we use the cross cutting to marry that. So it was just more or less like I just try to make it as seamless as possible without being over the top with it, to make it call attention to itself.
Mm-hmm. Got you. What was the process of getting your film distributed by Netflix?
Well, the process of getting Netflix attention it took a while because once we shot the film, we toured the festival circuit. But at the same time, being a producer, I always felt there's an importance to walk the film markets, to get a good sales agent behind it. So I did a lot of I went to the AFM, the American Film Market. I went to the Cannes Film Market. I talked to different sales, because when you're there's a lot of you have access to all these people. Everybody's out there to sell or buy films. So me just walking the floor, talking to people, finding out what they want or what they're looking for, gave me an opportunity to present my film. And because I already had a finished cut of the film, upon presentation to some of these sales agents, like I got a few that were interested, and by the time that they all made their pitches, we knew the one that worked for us. And he had a relationship with Netflix and with other people. And based on that, they took the film and they pushed it forward to Netflix and the other people, and then we just got our offers. I mean, it took about a year of touring, and a lot of travel on my part, but eventually, because when I made the film, my mind was always Netflix. I didn't think of any other distribution platform. Honestly, it was just Netflix was what I wanted, and I was just glad I stayed with it. I sent hundreds of emails, and as a starting filmmaker, up and coming filmmaker, it's really difficult. You think that everything just works out easily, but no. I sent out hundreds. I have lists of hundreds of different sales agent and different people in Netflix that I sent emails to just get a response from. And eventually I think we got the response we wanted from Netflix. And it was just like they had the biggest platform for visibility. And we just took that, we just pushed it forward through that, just for that particular reason.
Got you. So when you said you sent out hundreds of emails, were these cold emails or were these emails of people that you already met?
Some people actually met on the floor, but you have to take initiative. Coming from film school, you have to take initiative. So once you start going to the film markets, there are different resources that are available to you, which would have information on different production houses and emails of each person that's making the decisions. So I went through them and I looked for who would the film or who would specifically fit the film as far as like distribution channel, and I emailed every single one of them. The software is called Sinando, and I sat down with Sinando and I went through people in the US, UK, and people in South Africa that could just give me the kind of results I wanted, and I emailed every single one of them. I crafted I made a well-crafted email breaking down the film, the synopsis, the highlights, some scenes on it, so you can actually get a look and feel of it, a link to a trailer, and also the opportunities that could be exploited as far as merchandising and licensing and all that stuff. So by the time I crafted all that, people could see the opportunity, and I sent that out there. And out of 100, you get like 2, and those 2, you can that you might find that particular one, and that's actually the format I used to get this film out there.
Got you. So what is a film market exactly?
A film market is just like, it's just like any market, like a fruit market or whatever, but the product that they're selling is cinema, so it's like a one-stop hub of different companies or different stalls selling films from, different genre films from a particular country. It's just like, it's just one hub where everybody's selling films that they made in their country or a particular genre of film. And people are either buying or selling, like, hey, I'm looking for a horror film that I want to play theatrically. Oh, I can go to, the Asylum or whatever, and they have like about 5 different films I want to buy for Canada, the Canadian territory. I'm a distributor there. They go to Asylum, they see what they have on their slate, they buy those films. Or I want to look for a comedy, I go to XYZ Films, and they have this comedy starring this particular actor who's doing very well in Germany. I'm trying to buy for a German market, so I'm going to acquire that film for that market. So it's just in a place where you exchange your films and buying and selling films. And they have different ones all over the world. There's the Durban film market, it's in South Africa. You have the American film market in Santa Monica. You have the European film market in Berlin, and then you have the Cannes film market in Cannes. And then you also have some in Canada. So if you're a filmmaker, my advice is that, yes, you have your film, but sometimes you just can't sit down and expect it, okay, I'll play the festival and that's it. You have to do a lot of legwork, a lot of networking, a lot of, emails and cold calling, and going to those film markets, the best way to get that, build those relationships and those networks.
So to get into a film market, to get into this space, is it like, how does one get into that space?
To get into a film market, it's just more or less like, you know where it is, and you just buy a credential for it. So even if you don't have a product, just walk the floor, you buy a credential for it, and it's not, there's not going to be a restriction if you don't have a film. And once you have that, you can just walk the floor and just, everybody has a stall. It's like you can walk into any stall that, like, you could walk into, when Netflix can have a stall, you can walk to Netflix and say, hey, I want to talk to your acquisition person. I think I have a project that you guys be interested in. So everybody's out there to buy and sell anyway. So there's no red tape. You don't have to go to like 50 different people. You can just sit down there and have this conversation. And it's just funny that a lot of these conversations happen outside the United States because their guards are down. They're in Europe now. It's not their terrain. So you have better access to them, by going to maybe the European or the Cannes film market or Durban or whatever.
Yeah. That sounds incredibly intense.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like incredibly intense.
Oh, yeah. It's like
film market. Sounds like
1 week
market
of work. Oh, yeah, it is. Like and that's funny. I quantify it as that because once I go there, the floor is just busy. I think, especially in Cannes, like the first week of Cannes, it's just like people are just going and running about like, hey, just up and down. So it gets busy like the stock market. I look at it like this: it's the New York Stock Exchange, but it's in cinema. And as a filmmaker, I'm sure it will excite any filmmaker to just be around all that. So I even see people that don't even have projects, just have concepts. And a lot of films are done. If you've heard of the concept of pre-sales, most pre-sales are done that way. You are in the film market, you have an idea, you have a concept, you have a package, You already have a script, you have somebody attached to it. You go to a particular acquisition person and say, hey, I have this project with this person, we have a script and we're ready to shoot. And we're just looking for somebody to partner up with a production company / distributor. And they'll say, well, like right now we represent Germany. The going rate for Germany is 100K. We'll give you 100K towards that, but we take the distribution for Germany. So the thing is that, yes, you'll not get maximum money by pre-sales, but you can get your film financed that way from a pre-sales in the film market. So I always recommend that starting up and coming filmmakers or starting filmmakers should explore that route for their films. And also, if you're a short filmmaker, there's a film market for short films. And there, I think France, they pay very well. I know in Cannes, there's some distributors that pay $1,000, 1,000 euros for every minute of a short film.
Oh wow, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Now you mentioned that your number one destination for your film was Netflix. Why Netflix?
The truth about Netflix has an appeal that speaks to me. They are open to, a variety of brands. They don't have a particular brand that they want to dive to. They are open to new things. And I think that's what put Netflix ahead of a whole lot of other people, because a lot of people they try to mold a particular film a certain way. They only accept certain type of films, but Netflix is open to a whole lot. That's why they have films from India. They have films from Germany. They have films from South Africa. They're open to consuming cinema or acquiring cinema from anywhere in the world. For me, I see them as their mode of operation and their content level, the quality of content appeals to me as a filmmaker. I can see myself making films for Netflix for the next 10 years, 20 years, because I just know for a fact they would first of all, they will put the money behind the marketing of the product, but I've realized that they do support the filmmaker. They support the filmmaker's vision. They're very unintrusive when it comes to some of these things. And that appeals to me as a filmmaker, because there's nothing worse than to try and make a film and you have a studio on your neck saying, do it this way, do it that way, do it this way, do it this way, it has to fit this. And it stifles you as a creative. And I don't see that as an issue with at least people that I know that Netflix has worked with, directly off of originals. It's more like, what's your idea? We like your idea. Go ahead. Here's the money. Go make your film and we'll distribute it. And I love that. I just love the way they operate that way.
Okay, so here's my thing with Netflix. I hear everything that you're saying, and you are way closer to Netflix than I am. So I'm only seeing it literally from my TV screen, right? So I do like Netflix. From a filmmaker's standpoint, first off, just if I made a movie tomorrow and Netflix wanted to acquire it, I would sell to Netflix. But here's something that I think about just when it comes to newer filmmakers, first time, second time filmmakers. It doesn't seem like it's a space that filmmakers can build a name for themselves yet. I'm not saying it's impossible, but they've only been making original films for 6 or 7 years or something like that, give or take. But it doesn't seem like a space where there could be the next Quentin Tarantino or the next Ryan Coogler or the next Ava DuVernay. It seems like a space that the movie's out, it's on your queue, and then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, there's another movie out. And I know they've developed stand-up comedians who are completely unknown. They have a Netflix special, and then now they have 2 million followers on Instagram, such as like Ali Wong. I know they've made household names out of TV stars such as Millie Bobby Brown. But and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen it happen with a filmmaker yet. And I do understand that when your movie's on Netflix, that's a lot of potential eyes. There's a lot of eyes, more than any other platform. but it almost just seems like it's on your queue for a few weeks, and then it's the next movie. And it's like, how do filmmakers develop a name for themselves, to become that A-list director?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what you said is very valid. I think that a lot of, I think that there is also responsibility on the filmmaker to do some work in terms of marketing their work, at the same time as Netflix doing it. Because yes, you're right. Netflix is a hub where the product is seen, is right there. It might be there for a week or 2 weeks and then it's gone. At the same time, you as a filmmaker or as a producer, I think you need to do some legwork in marketing, getting eyes on it, getting people to appreciate it, get word of mouth out there. I mean, it's like, if you went to a movie theater, for instance, movie theater culture or whatever, I mean, it could be the same way. If you're not, if you have a small film and it's like, all right, I have this film in this theater, is playing. If you don't do a lot of marketing, it might go under the radar, but right now you're cutting out a whole lot of, the middleman to get the distribution platform, which is accessible to everybody else. Now, if you have a Netflix original, they would put money behind it and then to find its audience, obviously. But at the same time, if you don't have that access, I think that there is a responsibility as you as a filmmaker to make to get your name out there. Now, yes, the Ava DuVernays, all these people established their names before Netflix, but you have to understand that Netflix is also, it's as you said, it's still pretty new. It's you can consider what new media streaming. And with that, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for innovation and a lot of opportunity to actually get your name out there. Personally, for me, I would say get on Netflix. I mean, I could sell the difference, because of the legwork we did as a team, in terms of getting information out there, and the fact that we're on Netflix and we advertise that, it actually got more eyes to watch this film. It got people from Germany watching this film. It got people from China. I got emails from China like, oh, I saw this film, blah, blah, blah. And that also comes in hand with the work we did. And I know that eventually streaming is going to be really, it's already big. I mean, with the COVID pandemic, unfortunately, that the pandemic is, taking a lot of lives. But what it did also do is that it helped people to realize that, new media is something that we can start looking into, like this whole streaming media, OTT is something that we start looking into. So it's still fresh. But I see the opportunity, and I see it as eventually it's going to be a hub. It's almost like you go to different universities, for instance, the University of Netflix, University of HBO Max, where they signed filmmakers under them, and their content's being pulled out there, and there's distributions and marketing dollars put behind it without the filmmaker breaking the bank to try and do that, So I think that's just the way I see it. I mean, that might be personal to me, but Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many people have watched your film?
I don't have the metrics, unfortunately. I mean, I think that if I wanted to get it, I could get it. But I'm trying to detox from that world. I've been with this film for about 2.5 years. I edited, I was there during the editing process. I worked on every aspect. I even did the subtitles myself. So it's just like getting away from it. And then, before I go back into making my next project, I just want to spend time with my family. So I'm not really I've separated myself from just that world of, what's going on in this, and even the film, I've chosen not to see it. So maybe when I see it, maybe a year or two from now, just want to just pull away from it. So, but if I wanted to get that information, I think I can get it. My producing partner, Biola, she would probably have access to that information right now.
Wait, you haven't seen your own film yet?
No, other than working on it. I mean, because you have when you're watching it. We should literally finish working on Lara the Beat, and I didn't know we finished color. I think July, if I'm right, no, July, August, yeah, July. So we've turned in all deliverables. So prior to that, I mean, I'm working on it actively. And once you're working on the film, you're seeing it from the technical side, timing, pacing, this is off, fix that, VFX. So I'm looking at it from an artist the filmmaker point of view. I can't really enjoy it as an audience member yet, because I'm still going to be critiquing and trying to fix it. So I usually try to take time away from my work, and then maybe I see it, a year later, like, oh wow, I'm now understanding, I'm seeing the story flow. So I don't know how the filmmakers are, but sometimes after I'm done with the film, it's like, I see how this flows, because once you're in it, you're in this manic state trying to construct it. You know what you're trying to do prior to, but once you get into that world and you're answering questions from 50 different people, you're trying to just make a story and just put something together. So I've not really been able to enjoy the film as an audience member yet.
Okay, as an audience member, but you have seen it from beginning to end, though, right?
Oh yeah,
okay.
I mean, like every frame of it. Yeah, no.
I thought you said you've never seen it from beginning to end. I was like, how do you know?
No, that particular part. No, I scrutinize the film. Like I watch frame by frame, and I said I did some of the editing on my end. So it's like it's just been a whole lot. I probably watched it about 200, 300 times over the course of making it. So I just want to take it away and just like grow out there and grow, have like a kid, go out there and make friends and grow.
Yeah
you
gotta live so you can make the art.
So
how do you, like, when you're that close to did you say you edited it, or you were there?
I was there, but also the way I work, I also know how to edit. So the best way for me to convey my thoughts is I sometimes do stuff on my own. So I after we did the initial release, I went back and I did some editing on Final Cut Pro, because the film was edited initially on Avid, and I don't know Avid. I tried to learn it. It was just way over my head. I know Final Cut Pro. So I took what we had in the rough cut and I put into Final Cut Pro, and I started adding scenes and started putting everything together where I wanted to be. And then I took that, exported that out, the whole film as is, and I exported it out to the people that could work on Final Cut Pro on Avid and say, hey, this is what the finished product is. Can you now replicate this in Avid? So they just took what I was in and started replicating it, in Avid for the final output. So it's like, that's how close I get to it. Like I go in there and try to, show you what I want visually. So it's easier than trying to explain something, especially if I'm editing something. If I'm in like London, for instance, and I'm editing in LA, the best way to do is just have something that people can follow, as opposed to trying to explain something via email, which is very difficult sometimes, unless, you're there with the person, and it's very difficult when you're traveling a lot.
Mm-hmm. So how do you have a fresh perspective of your film? Because, when I'm writing, I'll read my script, dozens of times. And if I'm writing a comedy, which I like to write, I will read the script. And sometimes once I've read it 20 times, I'm like, is this even funny anymore? And then the next time I read it, I'm like, nah, it's actually pretty funny. And then the next time I'm like, actually, I don't know if this is funny. So how do you, I've never made I've made a short film. I've written and directed a short film, but I've never directed a feature film. So when you've watched the film 200, 300 times and you're so close to it, how do you keep a fresh perspective? How do you even know what you're doing is good enough by your standards? Well,
for me, the thing is that before I shoot a scene, I already see it in my head, everything. So by the time I do it, I kind of have an idea of what it is and what's being conveyed and all that stuff. So I know for a fact it's working because I've seen it in my head, clearly. But once you've done it and you're jaded, over and over and over again, sometimes you might need, I only had the luxury of taking maybe a week off maybe. And I just don't do anything pertaining to the film. I don't talk about it, and then I go back in. So I was doing a little bit of that. Like I just take a week off and because I have other projects and other things I'm working on. So I just work on those other things and then go back to this film. And I think that was how I kept it fresh, just taking short breaks off of it and then jumping back in to say, okay, I got to fix it. But because I already know what I was shooting on set, I kind of have an idea of what the thing would look like. Now, is it working or not? That's something that, I was just in the moment by moment. And I'm seeing, okay, if I work on seeing, okay, this works. I watch it like over and over again. All right, this is conveyed. This information is conveyed. The stakes are established. Oh, that little nuanced action there, it says this. Oh, maybe we should change that to this. So I'm looking at scrutinizing moment by moment, not as a whole, because working on a film about 2 hours and whatever, I think it was the initial call was 2 hours and 40 minutes long. You can't watch it as a whole and remember everything. So I have to look at moment by moment. And I believe by testing it out with people and getting their feedback over the course of making it and having people watch it, that also helps inform me about the things that are working or not working. But yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. It's really difficult to stay fresh, but you also have to have people that you could trust around you. My whole family is a family of filmmakers, so
oh, wow.
they're brutally honest with me when it comes to these things.
What do you mean by your whole family?
My dad is a filmmaker. Well, he has a filmmaking background. He has a degree in cinematography, and he moved to Nigeria, but because there was no industry then, he decided to go into television. So he's been doing TV for about 38 years now.
Oh, wow.
My younger sister is also a filmmaker. So she produced this film. She's one of my co-producers on this film, but she produces everything I work on. And so she's also a filmmaker. By virtue of my mother being married to my dad, and because film is so important to us, we grew up around, watching movies, supposed to be at a dinner table. She became a filmmaker, and she now writes stuff. And my wife, by married to me, she's my best critic when it comes to screenplays, because she pretty much became a filmmaker by virtue of being married to me and being in this family. So it's like we're all filmmakers. I was telling my sister the other day, like, we need to have habits because our life is film. Like, once I'm not making a movie, I'm working on a treatment, or reading a screenplay and editing for another, for one of my writers. The films I'm directing, I'm editing them, because I sometimes work on films. If I shoot a film, sometimes I've been working for like 6 years or 5 years, just to make sure. I'm always doing that. And if I'm not doing that, I'm watching a movie or a TV show and critiquing and breaking down and asking questions just to make myself better. Why did they make that choice? Oh, that's interesting. I would love to try that. So that's how I learn. It's like watching movies. Yeah. And so that's my life. So I need to get more hobbies other than film.
Yeah, I think it's definitely important to kind of just, for some people, to take a step back, just to live a bit and get out that space. But that's so dope that that you have a family. Like, I'm inspired now. I'm going to start my own family and force them to be filmmakers.
Yeah, we don't do the dining table thing. We just sit down and watch TV and eat dinner all our life. Yeah.
You guys like hypercritical about everything too?
Sometimes, I mean, we used to. I think for me, it grew from that to all asking questions, because I believe every filmmaker makes a choice, and that choice is motivated somehow, some way. So when I wasn't working, when there's a dry period, going from film school to be as a director, I use that time to start watching movies again, to reorient myself for movies and to relearn filmmaking. And then I say asking questions. When you look at a film like a Sergio Leone film, for instance, and you ask, well, the staging, the composition, why is that there? Why is that there? That's interesting. Why did they use that color palette? Why is the lighting over there? You start to realize you're answering the questions you're asking, and that makes you a better filmmaker. So, yeah, I mean, I think as opposed to being critical, it's more or less like asking questions. And off of those questions, you can make yourself a better filmmaker, and it also makes you more of a intuitive filmmaker. Like, intuition takes the lead a lot of times on set once you've worked a lot of movies. And I think Tarantino is very good for that too. Just intuition.
So what was the process of creating your own production company?
Wow, that's a good one. Wow. I remember in film school, I used to be the kind of filmmaker, my instructor is something that I'm the kind of filmmaker that I kind of just take a product and just shoot it as is, because it has to be personal to me. But at the same time, I wanted to make a film that represented who I was as a person, Nigerian and American, And I didn't see a lot of production companies that, were doing that, doing the diaspora and struggle story, doing the African struggle story, doing the African American struggle, being African American in the United States. I didn't see a lot of production companies doing that. So I took it upon myself to, okay, I want to make set up a company with the mission statement to make films for underrepresented people and showcase or highlight the struggles of people that reflected who I was, which is the African American or the African, and also the indigenous people from different tribes that are not represented in mainstream America. And that's how Skylar Pictures was born, with that mission statement. And every film on our slate reflects that. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to do, just to be able to do that, because it was not a tapped into field. It was not tapped into a niche. And I felt that by us highlighting that niche, we can actually start making fresh stories that people have never seen before. People understood, but they did not see that, they did not know that that other people felt the same way as they did. So I wanted to be able to tap into that, and that's why I set up my own company with that. And I think we did this. Started the company 2008, then I revamped in 2015.
Okay, how many films have y'all produced?
We've done mostly short films. We've done I think 4 or 5 short films. Doorways happened to be our first one. Then I did Finding Neptune. My sister did Dance in the Moonlight. She did Dear Nora. And then I did this movie. And then, we have some TV show stuff that we did also. So, not as many, because I said I take time before I work on a project. I just don't try and whip them off as far as it has to be personal. So I take time to develop them from the script format, which is sometimes 4 years to do each film.
Mm. Wow. And do y'all do are your music videos part of that production company, or?
No, I did music videos just in the beginning of my career. Like, the reason why, I got into the way I found myself in this industry was off of a music video bet. Somebody told me that, hey, I was an animator, and somebody said they wanted to make a music video. And I gave them a quote, and they're like, you know what? You've not really done any music videos before, so why are you quoting us this? So I worked on it for free, and I did my first music video for somebody in 2006. And then after that, once I did that video in Nigeria, other people started coming to me to make music videos. And then I think by the time 2008, I told myself I didn't want to work on music videos per se, because just the responsibility of getting an artist out of bed, it was not something I felt I wanted to be doing, because, hey, you're supposed to be on the set, and then the artist's like, oh, I don't want to come out of bed, because, the discipline wasn't there, at least, for the artist. And I just didn't want to deal with that long term. So I said I was just going to make motion picture and television stuff. Gotcha. And I've not done music videos ever since.
Got you. No, that is should not be part of the job description.
Yeah.
Should not be part of it. So what challenges did you have in regards to when you first started your production company, or even in the last year or so?
I think the major challenge I had was, getting people, it's financial, getting people to invest in your vision as a storyteller or in your film. It's something that I know, like, most filmmakers, all if not, all filmmakers deal with. But setting up the company wasn't hard. Getting understanding, because understanding how production company works wasn't difficult. You can get that information either from trial and error or from reading. So I studied a lot, and I did a lot of these things on my own, like going to the film festivals, going to film markets. But getting investment dollars is one of the hardest things in the US, and also, in Africa, getting people to believe in your vision. So that was, I think, the hardest thing, because I had to come up with, ingenious ways, which is how I read about tax credits and, fellowships and grants and all that stuff. I had to look into all that to be able to just get money behind my product. And then a lot of them also self-finance. And not until, I guess, 3 years ago, or 3 years ago was when, okay, the door started opening. When it's okay, you can now talk to people and get somebody to be interested to finance a film. But that journey has been 10 years going, just getting people off the ground to just invest in your products. A lot of times it just starts and then it doesn't go through,
Are you talking about, I'm sorry, are you talking about investing in short films?
Yeah, short films and feature films. There are certain feature films that I have one feature film that I was trying to finance for, I think, since 2015. I mean, obviously, the subject matter is very dark, so it's very indie film. And it's been 5 years. I traveled to London, traveled to US, traveled to France, just traveled to Africa, just to try and get financing for this film based on promises and conversations. And sometimes you invest all that money and then you get to that finish line and like, hey, you know what? We can't really invest right now because X, Y, Z. So a lot of running around. Was one of the hardest thing, was that financing aspect. But yeah, in the process of it also you learn, and that's what I try to do, is turn the negative into positive. What I learned from the situation, how can I be better? And it's all helped me as far as like being a better producer and just understanding what I want. Like right now, I know what I want, and I know for a fact that if I don't get this particular thing that I want, I can't sell myself short of it, because of the value in which I've thought about, I've weighed it, and the value in which my careful thought process behind this thing I want has, I guess, brought it is the word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was thinking, how could someone get an investor to contribute to their short film? It just seems like, I mean, investing in a film in general is so risky. It's really, really risky. It's I'm not a financial expert, but I would imagine it's one of the riskier investments that one could make. So I'm trying to imagine trying to convince an investor to invest in a short film. How often does that even happen?
I mean, it just depends on what the short film is for. I mean, I think, yes, you're right. It's very risky. A feature is risky, and the short film is even riskier because you don't have a lot of outlets for it. I think just being able to understand what's the message behind the film and what opportunity does it present. Sometimes you might just want to spend some money on a short film in order for you to get the financing for the bigger film. What I try to do is that with my short films, a lot of them are going to be proof of concepts for features. So by investing in a short film, you automatically are positioning yourself as an investor in the feature version, the theatrical feature version. So for a fraction of what you want to put on the table to get a piece of a feature film, you just, put something small down for a short film. And then also, as I was telling you, that there are outlets for short films to get distribution. Mm-hmm. My first short film I sold distribution rights to a company of a Francophone company. It was a 20-minute short film, but it did get distribution. And I feel that there are outlets. You just have to be able to find it. But also, what story are you trying to tell? How important is the story today? Where do you see the story going? Museums are another place to actually sell a short film to. Museums are always looking for, exhibits to showcase something. So if you're making a movie on even human trafficking, that's something, a short film that can actually play in certain museums or certain organizations can take on it or even license it. Like a university approached me not too long ago, and they're asking to license a film, and that's another way to monetize your product. Like, hey, you can get universities to showcase what your subject matter is to upcoming students, to educate them, on whatever the situation or topic is.
Got you. Okay. All right, Tosin, thank you so much for spending some time during your detox with me and sharing all this information. I really learned a lot about Nollywood. I didn't know much, and now I know something. So I appreciate that, and I think some of our listeners will appreciate that as well.
Thank you so much, Reggie.
Of course. Where can people find you on the internet or social media?
Sure thing. You can catch me on Instagram, Tosin Coker Film on Instagram. And then if you want to send me an email, www.skylarpictures.com, SKYLAR pictures.com, or send me an email at tosin.coker@skylarpictures.com. And I'm very good at responding, even to help or to share resources or knowledge with people. I'm always excited to help filmmakers on, to network with people.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Tosin.
Thank you very much, Reggie.
All right, enjoy.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Black Film Space podcast. This episode was co-executive produced by Gabrielle Charles and Sino Gibson and was edited by Marcus Rosendahl. If you're interested in being part of our community and attending events, please visit us at blackfilmspace.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Black Film Space. Subscribe to our email list and podcast. All right, see you soon.